good evening, everyone, and/or good morning, depending on where you're tuning in from. I know we got viewers from around the world. So those who have decided to wake up on their Sunday morning and be part of the Hobo Nation, thank you. This is going to be a different type of live stream than I've done before. We're going to try some new things. Instead of just being a Q&A, we're even going to try and make this interactive. And by interactive, what I mean is I'm getting ready to share with you in the comments, post, paste. I just shared let's make sure it popped up in there. Did it? Yeah, that should be a link to a Google Doc. And show it to you real quick. It should be a link to this spreadsheet. And I want at least, 2 dozen of you or so to pop over there and put in, as it says here, his first name with an optional middle initial, last name, school, and class. So I did an example here. First name, space, middle initial, period, and then last name, school, and class. And make sure once you put in class, you go out and get out of that field. And once you do, you can just close the doc, and it should save it and update it. I think this is completely new to me. This is an experiment we're going to try. And later on in this stream, I'm going to access this spreadsheet, I hope, download it, import it, tie it to a design we're going to create here in a few minutes, and be able to show you how easy it is to use variable text and create a crazy amount of pieces, unique pieces, with one design. Okay, it says view only. Okay, well, I don't know why it says view only. I said this is experiment. Let's see. General access to a viewer editor. Aha. Done. Copy link. Told you. This is experiment. We're both learning, both of us and the 79 of you. All right, copied that link, done. And I've got somebody messaging me. I hope it's just y'all telling me, hey, stupid, that don't work. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to send you another link. Post, paste. Come on. Okay. There's another one, and it says edit. So hopefully that's going to work. And I can see that it's starting to populate in some of these. So anyway, we're going to take a few minutes and let some of y'all populate this, because I don't want you to be distracted trying to do this once we jump over in Lightburn and start. Now we're up to 80, 81, and I appreciate you all being here. I know this has been a holiday weekend, and my numbers have been down this week, and that's kind of, I blame it on it. Everybody's on traveling. Everybody's on vacation and or doing stuff with the family, or not in the shop running lasers when it's hotter than Hades. And you say, Sharon saying view only too. Well, some of you are editing, because I see some names, but it's not working. And like I said, this is an experiment. I don't know, because what made me think of this was I use Excel to create my CSV files, but not everybody has Excel, and you can create CSV files in just about any spreadsheet software. Excuse me. So I got to thinking, I said, well, is there a software that about anybody can have access to create these CSV files? And the other thing, well, yeah, Google Docs. So I'm gonna. Okay. I thought I about had a temper situation. My light just went. And this is actually going to be really good. It's starting to populate now, and we'll let it go for a few more minutes, because I'm curious about a few things. How well do folks follow instructions? And this is going to give us an opportunity to talk about the pitfalls of having too many hands in the pot, and what's your best way to get a CSV file. This would be probably one of the easiest ways if everyone was able to follow the directions and it be uniform. But if you remember the game Password or whatever it was, where you'd tell a small story and you'd pass it on to the next person, pass it on. And by the time it got around to the 15th or 20th person, it's nothing like what it was to begin with. Well, we're going to see how well this works. And there's always going to be that one. And by show of hands, who would be that one? There's always going to be that one that somebody's going to put in there. Their name's Seymour Butts, and it's under the bleachers in the class of 2024. That'd be something I would do. So if you do something like that, keep it clean. But it's not going to be on screen long enough for anybody to really notice anyway. But this is just going to be a chance to show you another way to try and gather your information. All right. So what we're going to do tonight, and this is going to be this is probably it ain't going to be no 5 hour. It ain't going to be a long 5 hour long. But this is going to be a lot of information, and I'm going to deal with variable text and designs, and we're going to design a table placement, or to reserve a table mark, or a seat at a table with everybody's name on it, and generate the arrays and show you how to set all that up from start to finish. And I'm actually going to do one really quick because I've already got one ready and prepped. And I already have a CSV file, and I'm going to bring all that in and just show you, once you've got everything and you've got your mind wrapped around how all this works, how fast you can make these jobs go away. Once I do that and demonstrate it, then I'll show you what I did, how I set it up, how I create the artwork, how to make all these things be where I want them to be and what I want them to be. And we're going to do Q&A along the way. So let's see here. I know it's a hot, miserable day. Everybody's, and well, not everybody. I see some cold and rainy and yucky, wet and cold. And in the UK, Dave says he's on the other end of the spectrum. Most of us here in the continental US are miserable right now. Come on, now my mouse is going to start acting up. Here we go. Jeffrey says, do you still use Lightburn material test? Tried mine today, and none of the text printed even made sure the boxes were checked. I just used it yesterday, and it worked. I got all my text printed. Now, in addition to making sure that the output for that text is turned on, once you open that up and you in the settings for the text, make sure it's set to output. It's kind of a double edged. All right, I don't know who did it, but somebody did it. Seymour Butts under the bleachers right there. All right. Let's see here. Switch over here for a second before we jump into this. Lightburn, and go to laser tools, and material test. Right here, output sublayers. Nope, no, right here up top. Output. Make sure that's turned on, because there's your material settings where you can set your line intervals and stuff. But your text tool for your material test, make sure that not only is enable text turned on, but make sure that the output is turned on. That would be the first thing that I would think of that would prevent you from having text on your material test, if that's the only place that it's not outputting. Try that. Double check that. Da, 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 da. Looking. Gonna get down to the bottom of all the highs and hellos to everybody. And I do, again, I appreciate everybody coming. And this is gonna be a good one. No, Bill, you don't have to save. Just got to make sure all of your information's in and just exit. And you want to go out, make sure your data's in and just go to the next field and leave. All right. Okay. I'm going to put in a row of my asterisk. And mark my spot in the comments. There we go. All right. Now, let me get rid of these material tests and go back over here to Lightburn. So this is an example of what I wanted to have in the way of a place setting, or reserve a seat at a table, right? So this is the class reunion, the name, and for whatever reason, if you want, they had their date of birth in there, people know what their birthdays are there, and what year they graduate. Maybe it was going to be because as some of you may be aware, because a lot of us are getting to be old farts and older farts, our 10-year reunion, a lot of folks were there. By the time you get around to your 30 or 40-year reunion, ain't a whole lot of you left, and so you might end up doing a combination reunion. It's the 80s. Western City High School 80s, class of the 80s. And so you differentiate what class it is, what table they're going to be at, and I got the little mascot over there. So that's what I wanted it to look like. And this is what it's, once I had the artwork set up, I said, okay, now I can go in and substitute all of my variable text. And that's what all of these codes are. And if we go to go here, select it all, make sure it's all grouped. It's all grouped. And now I'm going to do an array. And I'm going to be cutting my material out of my 300 by 300 material. I've just got this one piece up here. Don't have it on a toolpath. Don't need it on a toolpath. Because I'm going to come over here and tell it I need 2 columns. And I can see right here the total width is 289.4 millimeters. So that is as many as I can do. Now I come over here to my rows and start putting in my rows until I get down. All right, 340 is too many. Come back up. I'm at 291. That's as many as I can get on a 300 by 300 piece of material. And if you noticed, they populated down the screen as I was generating that array. And I have my reverse direction turned on. If that was turned off, they would populate up the screen. You'd think, okay, well, what does that matter? Well, it matters. And we'll talk about it in a minute. Reverse direction, put that back down there. So that's done. And I'm going to get my CSV open. And now I can test this and see what it's going to look like. And there you go. In fact, I will put it in preview, and the preview screen will actually just show you what they're going to look like. So here, and I put these, I've got a total of 24 names, and I put them in all A's, B, C, so that you can see each one of these is a next line. Alphabetically, I did my CSV file like this, just so you can see the progression. So there's A through M for the first set of 12. And each name's different. The birthdays are different because it's 1-1, which that was the first name, 2-2 was the second name, 3-3, and so on. But each class is, I put those in for different names, and you got different table placements, table 1, table 2, table 3, different years that they graduated. Now, some of you may have noticed, but let's see. First, here's A through M. So now I've printed it, or I've engraved it. It's done. And next, and preview. And there's N through Y. So that quick, I did 24 names, send that to the laser, and job's over. Now, can you imagine how fast you're going to go through a job like this if you had 200 names or 150 names? So it's a really, really cool tool when you fully wrap your mind around it and how it works. Now, you might notice my little yellow jacket right here is much smaller than my original plan. And the reason for that was I set it up just like you see it here and moved it over and tried my name with the variable text. And one of the names was so long that it came over here and was overlapping the top of the yellow jacket. So I knew I needed to make this smaller. And we're going to talk about that when we start talking about setting all of this up, creating the design. And there's also 1, 2, 3, 4 different fonts that I used in this design. The top line's one font, the name and date of birth is the second, and that's a different font. That's a different font. And I did all this based on a lot of the questions that came up in emails and YouTubes and my Patreon page, because this topic came up as a request from one of my patrons. They needed to know how to do variable text using Lightburn and to do a whole bunch of names on a Tumblr. So they had one figure, one design, but it had a whole bunch of names. So easy peasy, just to import names and just on with a Tumblr, off with a Tumblr, on with a Tumblr, and just next, done. If you are not aware, I'm going to open, I don't think I have this open, but I'm going to open it for myself, and I want you guys to see where this is at. You've seen me open it before, but if you go up here to help and click on the online documentation, it will open a new window. And I did have it open. All right, go away. It'll open a new window with all of the Lightburn documentation. And if you go over here to your search bar and start typing variable text, then it's going to bring you straight to your variable text headings. And then you've got your variable text in Lightburn, which is just a quick summary of what it is. And then your variable text formatting. And the formatting is where it's going to hang you up. And there's so many different formats that you can use and different ways you can use it that until you've done a bunch of these, you may need to be reverting back to this to get familiar with the different ways that they can be set up. Are you doing serial numbers? Are you doing dates? And then, across the pond, they do the 25th or the 21st of May, 2001. Here we do May 21st, 2001. So you learn the different sequences, different formatting, and then you can arrange it however you want. So this is something that you're going to want to, you don't necessarily have to bookmark it, just memorize it. You can go to help online and then search for variable text, and then variable text formatting is where all that information's at, what all of those letters represent and what they're going to do. And when you do CSV, down here, what we're going to talk about today is the CSV merge and text format. And the biggest thing about the CSV is remembering that the first column in a CSV file is 0. Columns are numbered starting from 0. So when you're looking at an array, column A is 0. Column B is 1, 2, 3, and so on. So that's the biggest thing about keeping up with what information you bring in where. Don't forget that column A is 0. All right, now back over to Lightburn. So what I've got here is this is the same on all of them, the BCHS class reunion. But then the name is going to be something that's different on all of them. And it's %0. And if we go back over there, it tells you where. I don't think it says, or I'm sure it does somewhere. CSV files. It may not actually say it, but you use a percent sign and then the column, the number for that column. I'm surprised it doesn't tell you percent, but you got to put in a percent symbol and then the number for the column that it goes to. And here they're talking to show you an example that I'm thinking of buying 0 or %0, and it costs %1. And up here is what those values are. $80, 1. Lightburn is in 0. So percent, and then the number of the corresponding column you want to use. So 0 was the names that I had in my CSV. 3 was the column that had their date of birth. And my mouse is, there we go. And 5 was the year they graduated, and 4 was the table number they were going to be sitting at. Now, so that's all. That's how I decided what numbers go where, because that goes with each of those columns. But there's a lot of things that go with setting up each one of those. Each one of those text, each one of those lines of text will have their own commands that you have to assign to it. Telling it to skip to the next one. Where do you want it to align? Do you want it to be center justification, left justification? You have to do that for each one. And you actually set your font for each one when you put in that. So whatever font you use for the %0, %5 will be the font that is used to input those letters. Going to the comments. Well, yeah, actually, Andy, yeah, tomorrow is my birthday. Woo, woo. Thank you. Nothing that I celebrate at all. Come on, go away. And now, and just so everyone know, text formatting will not save in CSV. Oh, if you're talking about the actual putting it in the spreadsheet. Starting column number is in the help for variable text formatting, very last line. And I don't know why, but today, all of a sudden, it's been doing just fine. But now, all of a sudden, my mouse has decided to go and then start working again and start working again. Okay. Go away. So now let's go back over here. And it is crucial that you get everything set up. And I have that group, so let's ungroup it. It's crucial that you have everything set up in your very first piece before you start making your arrays. And like I said, here's what I wanted it to look like. And if I say, okay, all right, everything looks good. I've got this table sitting down here in the bottom right corner. And I want to make sure that that's over here to the bottom right side. I want to make sure this is centered up. So what you have to do when you're setting up this text information, if you're not aware, that's what up here in your align X and align Y, those are your justification settings for the text. So here you can see I've got it middle, but over here it should be, I got to ungroup it. Yeah, I got it right middle. All right. So what you'd want to do is, if that's exactly where you want it to be, well, as soon as you come up here and tell it you want it to align to the right, you're going to see it's going to jump. So you tell it to align right, and then move that into the position you want it to be. I want it to be right there. And that way, no matter how long that information was, if it wasn't going to be just table 1 or table 2, if it was going to be somebody's name, and it was going to, one name might be, Abe Smith, real small name, and the next name is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Well, you would want to make sure that whatever the name was, that it ended right there in that corner. So you'd do that right justification, and now it's going to, ever how long it'd be, that's how long that's going to stick out there. So when you set up that formatting, and placement is crucial, that's where you use your formatting up here, or your justifications, to set where you want it to be. Do you want it to line right, middle, or left? Here I got middle, and same as all these. So there, I would say, once I've got that set up and that's where I want it to be, then I would go back to my text editor. And if my name is in the first column, which it is, I just backspace that out and put %0. And that's ready to go. And whatever this one was percent, it was in the third column. So I just back that one up and %3. Backspace out. Don't delete it. Backspace out of it, because you set it up with the right fonts you want and then the exact spacing that you want. And actually, I did that one too far. I wanted it should have kept class of and the space. So there, and now %5. %5. Backspace %4. And here, this will be a good chance to show you, once you've got all that set up, you've got your text where you want it. You've already, and I'm going to walk you through on how to get these files in here and set up with you too in a minute. But I've already got my file brought in here. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to say test. Oh, not only is tonight going to be a lengthy and a lot of information, it's going to be full of a lot of screw ups too. One thing I forgot to do, and you're going to forget to do this too, even if you've done it a dozen times or 24 times. I forgot to tell it to be variable text when I was just changing that over. And that's crucial. It's absolute. It won't work if you don't do it. So I don't have to undo anything. I just have to assign it to variable text. So now I've got that %0 in there, and it's got the right font. It's the right size, everything I want. Everything's formatted correctly. But now you have to come up here to where it says normal, drop it down, and change it to merge CSV. This one, normal. Nope. We want that to be merge. Same thing here. Change all these to merge CSVs. And now when you select that and tell it to test, now it will give you the information you were looking for. And I wanted to go back to, there we go, test. And there you can see, and if you're working with, go back, switch you over. If somebody has sent you a CSV file, and that's something that I would recommend doing, because what we're getting ready to see when we pull up this file that you guys have been filling in, there's going to be so many problems that ain't even funny, because there's too many hands in the pot. There's going to be a few jokers, and like I said, I would be one of them. And also, if you think about it, if you were the branch manager at the bank and you said, okay, guys, we got some personalized gifts coming for all the employees. You need to go in and log into this link and put the information in that you'd like to have. And you don't particularly care for that one coworker in there, and you see that they have already logged in and put their name on there, you might be half tempted, because nobody's going to know it was you. go in and edit it and change their name and do whatever. Well, when you got too many hands in the pot, something's going to happen, something like that. So you'd want to prove it yourself and look for it. But you'd also probably suggest that, okay, all right, branch manager, you've done this, and you ask everybody to look at it. Now you go and proof it and make sure everything is right and people's names are correct. I'm not responsible for anything. You send me the information, and I'm going to make them. So having everybody have access to it might not be the best thing, but if you work in the email or message I got, they asked me, does it have to be Excel? Because in the video I did with the tumblers, I imported the Excel spreadsheet. No, it doesn't have to be an Excel CSV file, any CSV file. And if you didn't have Excel, then you can use Google Docs. If they have a computer, they have access to Google Docs. You set up a base format and the information that you want in a certain order and share that to them and have them fill it in. And that would work. And even if there are a couple problems with it, a few problems out of 40 or 50 or 150 names would be a whole lot easier to resolve than it would be to input all those names yourself. All right. Whenever you get your CSV file and you get your list of names, look for the longest name. And you can see that at a glance. You open your CSV file and, well, let's jump over to CSV file. Switch over here. Let's switch back. And we'll switch here, go over here and look at the array. All right. So here I'm looking. There's what you can do is you grab this bar right here and you start dragging it over. And I'm looking to get it down to a length. Go away, don't show again. To where I start getting names cut off. All right, there's McAllister. That's pretty long. In fact, and this right here would be probably an example of didn't follow instructions. Up here it says first name and last name, but I'm guessing this is last name and the first initial, K. Thor buttocks, okay. But by shrinking that down, you're going to start seeing whenever you run out of room, and then you would look for the longest name, and then you go over into your Lightburn and populate that longest name in your first setup of your artwork to see if there's going to be any interference. And you do this before you start populating everything. So if we're here and I think my longest name, I think it was actually the first name, Adam. And so there I'm like, okay, that's getting a little close. So I could grab my artwork and just shrink it down and pull it down here out the way, test it. And that looks a lot better. It's not as crowded. And once you're happy with everything that's set up there, then you would start creating your array. Now, something I didn't mention to you whenever you're setting these up, and this will be something that you'll need to know about your array, your CSV file, I should say, before you start setting up your offset. And we'll talk about that, and I'll show you what the offset is and what it does. So you'll need to know, like on the array that everybody's jumped in and filled in some information. My first, you've got columns, and then you got rows. My first row in that CSV file is the header or the name of that column. I had name, first name, middle initial, last name, so on and so forth. So that first row, I don't want that to be engraved. So since I don't want that to be engraved, then I'm going to offset by 1. I'm not going to start at 0. I'm going to offset by 1. And it would skip that first line and then start from there and filling in the array from there. not a life-changing or life-ending event if you engraved that. If you did that and you sent it, well, you just wasted a single piece, no biggie. But that's how you would skip that row, is in the offset tool, which is up here. Whenever you set up your information, you're going to tell it to be a merge CSV. And then if you need it to offset, if you need it to skip a row, then you would tell it here offset by 1. And then that would skip that first line. I don't want to offset. I'm going to leave it at 0. Then on top of the offset for each of those, and you'd have to do that for each one of these if it needed to be offset. Once I'm going to set this over here. No, that's the one I want to use. This is the one I just played with. I'm going to set it over here out of the way. I've got everything set up, and you want to group it all. Once you group it all, then you do your array. And I know it's going to be 2, and I think it was 6. Nope, 7 too many. There it goes, 289 by 291. So I know that'll fit on my 300 by 300 material. Say okay. And now, if I do my test button, I can see all of those names and everything looks like I want it to be. If that is exactly the outcome that I want, all I got to do is make sure my material's on the laser, it's focused, send the job, and it's going to engrave all those, cut them all out. When you're ready to do the next set of 12, you can accomplish it. How many ways are there to do things in Lightburn? 100 different ways to do things in Lightburn. I'll show you 2 ways to accomplish this. You've done the first 12 names, and now you're ready to do the next 12. If you did not have auto advance turned on, you would just simply come up here and tell it to hit next. And then when you look at test, there's the next 12 names. But why did it go to 12? Why did I had it, if I go back previous and test, I ended it with the Mark Mathis. How did it know next? How did it know the next one needed to be ends in Ned Nations? Because this field right here, advance by, that's where you tell it how many names it needs to advance. So you've got the very beginning, you're starting at 0, or here it starts at 0. This is where your current position is. Start at 0, end at a total of 23, and it's 24 names because 0 is one of the 24. And whenever you advance, it needs to advance to the 12th column. If you wanted to just advance 10, in fact, if I change this, if you did not set up your advance at all, and it was advanced by 1, if we did a test right now, there's Adam Anderson through Mark Mathis. And I didn't change my advance by, and I just hit next and test. Well, it only advanced 1 number. Adam Anderson's gone. The next one's Bill Barnes. Well, I've already got all of those except for Ned Nations. That's the only one I didn't have. Let's go back and advance it by 12. Next, test. And there is the next 12 names. Now, when you've got it on the workspace like that, and you just want to do a quick check and see how things are working, obviously you see me hitting just the test button. And that will fill in any of the fields, and you can see that test. If you click on the preview screen, it will show you, without having to hold the test button, it'll show you what the outcome is going to be. And then you can look at everything and make sure it's right and even proof it if you needed to. And reset will send everything back to 0 to start all over again. And I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to ungroup this. I'm going to grab my first one, Control D, duplicate it, and send this over here out the way. So I've got that saved. Now select all those again and test it. They're showing you the A through M. And I'm having to hold the test button down to see that. I can, hit this bake button right here. But before I go to bake, let's talk about the other way. Instead of having to hit next, if you set all this up and you set your advance by 12 and then you tell it auto advance, turn that on, and you do test and look and say, okay, there's my first 12. As soon as you run your job, you go to laser and you hit start and it runs those 12 and cuts them out. You can pick those up off there, put a new piece of material down on there. And after you've hit that job is completed, you go back over to variable text. Well, no, you don't even have to go back over to variable text. You go once you've done your first 12 and you have auto advance turned on, you put down your new material and just hit start. And it's going to put out the next one. It auto advances those columns. And once you get really comfortable with your laser and your abilities to use variable text, that might be just secondhand for you. So, all right, I got it set up and that's what I want. And I got, oh, these are right. And I'm just auto advance done. Put your material on there, start. Pick it up, put your material on there, start. Pick it up, material on there, start. Not even checking anything because you get that comfortable with your equipment and your knowledge of what you're doing. But early on, while you're still figuring it out and learning, I would strongly recommend not doing the auto advance, being able to look at it, test it, make sure you're getting the outcome you want, and then hit start, and then go up and hit next, test it. Let me look for any questions since the last asterisk. Thank you, Brad. Much appreciated, sir. Okay, that was all that. And I'm hoping that I've been reaching out to different laser groups, hoping to invite more people to come visit the stream and see what's going on here with Hobo Wood. So if you're a first-time viewer and you're seeing people put in these numbers like Tom and Moses, what that's all about is whenever you learn something, if it's something you hadn't seen or it's a new way of doing something, every time that happens, you put in a 1. So whenever Tom put in there 4, he's already learned 4 things in this stream already. And I do that, or I ask you to do that so that it keeps the stream moving and it keeps the analytics for Google awake and working and helps my overall analytics with the stream. And also if you're first time here, when you have a question about something that I'm doing, or you want me to address a particular topic about what I've just done, precede your question with a question mark or 2 or 3. Doesn't need to be crazy, but put a couple of question marks there. Then put your question in, and that way it'll jump out at me as an actual question. Because there's comments and question mark, or not comments. There's conversation taking place in the stream that is irrelevant to what I'm talking about, and I just skip over that to keep things moving. So if I don't see a question mark, I don't bother looking at it, because otherwise, since I don't have a moderator, I'm be sitting here forever looking at what you guys are talking about and not talking about what we came to talk about. All right. Wow. Okay. Great. I learned 4 things before Hobo said hello. Well, I'm guessing then you was listening to the wife. All right. Back over here. Now, I showed you how you can do your test. There's your first 12, hitting next. And if you've got your advanced set up right when you hit next or test, it's going to show you your next 12. And then preview will actually just show you those. But if you have, and I'm not real sure why, I'm sure there would be a place that this would be beneficial to some. I don't know what it is yet. Yes, Brad, Convo does help. Just like I'm not chastising about Convo. I'm just saying I don't have time to read it during the stream. Yeah, you guys talk about what you want to. But if it's a question, I won't see it because I'm going right past it. So like there, your question mark, that jumped right out at me. But back over here, bake. If you press bake, you're not going to get a cookie. If you press bake, it's going to, I'm not holding anything. I've just pressed bake and it's filled all of those in. Now, the problem with that is I hit reset, 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 reset. I'm clicking on reset all day long. It ain't going nowhere. I can go up here and undo and get it back. But when you press bake, it actually will bake those names and information into there permanently. It gets rid of the merge CSV aspect of it. That's going bye-bye. And I'm guessing, I don't know if you only had the 12 names and you wanted to see it and not have to worry about looking at it. I don't know. Or possibly you've done it, you've set it all up, and you've imported the CSV, and you've done your test. And when during the test you found the problem with one or two of them, then you could hit bake and bring that in and then make that edit. It's now edit should be editable. You can't eat it. It's editable text. So let's see if that's right. If I go to text menu and come over here, is that going to let me? Nope. It's not going to let me edit that. So that, I don't know why you would want to do that. I don't see the value of bake, but somebody did and requested it, or whoever designed it to begin with said, hey, this is a good thing. So if you know why bake is a good option, drop that in there. In fact, whenever, and we haven't done this before, when you know it's like, hey, stupid, this is why you do that. Instead of a question mark, put an exclamation point, exclamation point. Exclamation points to jump out at me and I say, okay, that's why bake is valuable. I don't know why bake is valuable. Somebody does. Somebody has value in that. Just not me. Not yet. All right. So undo. All right. So there's that. All right. Now I'm going to clear. Now I no longer have a CSV file in here because that is, without knowing how to get your CSV file linked to this variable text, what good is it? I don't think so. Come on. Chris asks, can you bake page one and then next? No, because what's happened is once you bake it, those are baked into that array, and the array for the variable text is gone. So when you go to the next, there's nowhere to put it. It permanently bakes it into the array, and that's not an option. And Jeff has an idea. Maybe baking would produce a way to print out a copy for a customer proof or something. Well, you could do it that way, but we'll look at that. Let's see here. First, we'll bring in your file. My file is not there anymore. So if I need to bring in my CSV file, I got to go over here to browse and then go to wherever I have that CSV file, which I've got mine on my desktop and it's here, open. And now that is linked to this information. And to Jeff's comment about doing it for customer proof, that would work. But as I just said, once you bake it, I was actually hoping that, come on now, get my selector tool. I was hoping that if I did this and selected just these, that it was only going to fill these that I had selected. But look over here, this one I'm not selected. When I do test, it fills it in too. The reason I set this over here was so that when I did bake, I would have one that did not get baked, but this one gets baked as well. So that doesn't work. But what you can do if you needed to create some proofs, you go to your preview. And once you got your preview, You can save image and print image. Save image and print image. And that's how I would send out a proof for folks to look at. Will Apple numbers work as well? Apple numbers. Kent, Apple numbers. I'm not a Mac fan. I don't know anything about Macs and Apples. So the first question is, I'm like, Apple numbers? What are Apple numbers? I don't know what that is. I mean, the text is going to work, but I don't know what Apple numbers are. So I don't know how to answer that question. And it's because of my complete lack of knowledge of Mac. And that's a good, I've been told I'm only half baked myself. Well, there you go. Let's see here. Yeah, and that's what I did. Where did I just see that at? Well, there, Chris. Chris says, yeah, do a proof and then Control Z, and the undo and Control Z. That's what you could do it that way, and then print it and undo. I think it protects your design from the operator, so he can't screw it up during burn. Yeah, but then, like I said, though, if you've got multiple pages to do, once you bake that in, you can't do the second page without undoing it. Don't know. And Andy says, yes, numbers will work because you can save it as a CSV. And Jack's educating me. Numbers is an Apple spreadsheet. Okay. So yeah, and that was, I hate that this will go on for a week with fireworks. That was right outside my window. It does need to be a CSV file. And the first time I did an Excel spreadsheet, it saved it in an Excel worksheet format, and it was not a CSV file. So it would not let me link that to it because it wasn't a CSV. And in a minute, when I bring in this spreadsheet that we've been playing with, and now it's on this window. They're on either side of the house. I'm going to download it as a CSV file. So I'd imagine that whatever sheet or tool that you're using in Mac, instead of saving it as this numbers file, you'd be able to export it, download it as a CSV file, because yeah, I do believe it needs to be strictly CSV. The one you pulled aside and didn't select, yes, also baked. What if you selected it and put it on another layer before baking? I don't think that the layers matter, but we'll look. I don't think that the layers matter. Go away, because it's not looking at layers. It's looking at the merge CSV formatting that was done. So his question was, if I put this on a different layer, in fact, let's just put all of that on a toolpath. Put it all on a toolpath. So, and only select this here and do test. Come on, mousy mouse. Nope. And so you can see there, test. It's still, even on a toolpath, it's still auto-filling when you do test. And if I hit bake, it would bake that in. So back to there and back to there. I got to ungroup it. Black, and then just the outer piece on red. There we go. All right, so no, that didn't work. Let's see here. So yeah, everybody has been able to help Kent with that. Yep, as long as you save it as CSV, Apple numbers will work. And a couple of you have expressed concerns about my puppy. She has become. She's she's never she's never been a lap dog, and even now she's still halfway across the house from me. She's not over here with them doing this. But after that tornado went through, she's turned into a lap dog. Now that I'm talking about her, here she comes. You want to come up here? Come here. Come on. No, she ain't gonna get up here. Yes, she is. Come on. Up. Come on. What's the matter? Come on. I gotta go to work. Come on. Say hey. Get up here. Up. Come on. I'm in a rocker, and so that ain't real comfortable for her. All right. Would baked be for you can send it to someone else and they won't be able to? That you could. They wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't be able to edit at all because we just seen you couldn't change the fonts or anything like that. But it was only those 12. So if you had like 250 of them to do, that would be problematic. I mean, that I don't see the benefit of it. I really don't. All right. And Craig's going to be a smarty pants. He's learned 4.76531 things so far tonight. All right. Now, so we looked at setting that up. And one of the questions was, how do you set the fonts? You set the fonts in the very beginning. Whatever font you use for the percent and the number for the column you're using, that font is what will be printed or engraved whenever you do that. Setting the font size is also, it's all going to be linked to that. Alignment justification whenever you're setting up your fonts and your output. Do you want it to be set in that left front corner and output otherwise? In fact, let's show you that. If this is set up and I've got merge middle, and I do. Now she's all up in my business. She's over here nosing me, wanting to be right up on top of me. Let's see here. It's okay, baby. It's okay. Go over and lay down. Go lay down. Go lay down. Here. Nope. She don't even want a treat. She just wants to be right under my feet. All right. Better yet, let's do come over here. Come on. And I wished it was a battery. I think somebody mentioned something about maybe my battery was a problem with my mouse, but it's not. It's a memory thing. And I shut down the computer and rebooted everything, but it is not battery. It's something to do with memory. All right. If I come over here and let's say instead of the name being up here in the middle, I did %0. Put that on black layer. And I wanted it to be right there. And I'm going to change it to CSV merge and do a test. See where Adam's at? There, I've got it right here in the corner, but test, it throws Adam way out there to the left. That's not where I want that to be. So here I want it to start on the left and go out. So I need to change that text alignment. So if I select it and come up here to align left and then move that back over because it moved a little bit, put it back where I want it to be, where I want it to start, and do test. Now it's going to start there at the left and fill in accordingly. Okay. All right. Uh, Now let's set up from scratch. But before I start that, does anybody got any questions about what we've gone over so far? Anybody got any questions that they haven't already interjected in here? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Because I'm getting ready to delete this, and we're going to start from scratch using the spreadsheet that we started. And I'm going to say I've got that, got that. Come on. Go away. Bake so that you don't have to rely on the CSV file if you need to rerun the same laser. Yeah, and that would be okay if you had a small job that it even if a set of 12 names, if you're having to set up 12 different, that's a lot of input. If you had it, especially if you already had a CSV file, you say, you know what, I'll just do this one time, set it up, import it in, done, bake it. And now I can just run that over and over and over again. And now you're right. It's done. It's set and it's baked in there. It's no longer editable and it's not going to be screwed up. But if you had more than you could set up in your array and get out of your one piece of material, then you'd have to bake. And once you bake, your original is gone. So you'd have to save your original, then create an array, bake in those 25 or whatever number there'll be, save it, and then bring your original back in and bake the next 25, save it. And, you could do that. But if it was a relatively small job and you did not want to have to mess with the CSV, yeah, you're right. That would work. Jim asked me, how long have I been using Lightburn? Jim, Hobo with Wood just celebrated its 2-year anniversary. And June 15th, 2 years ago, is when I got my first laser. And when I got my first laser was the first time touching a laser and or opening Lightburn. So I've been doing this full time now for 2 years. Are there any hotkeys? Say I was doing a tumbler for a reunion and I wanted it to print all the names of people attending. Are there any hotkeys? Yes. Say I was doing a tumbler for a reunion and wanted it to print all the names of the people attending. I don't follow the second part of that question. Yes, there are hotkeys, lots of hotkeys. But I don't follow your questioning there. Printed out what? Just print. I mean, you could print out the CSV file, print out your spreadsheet if you want just the names, a list of names. Yeah, I'm not following you completely there, Tom. Bake when sending the file for someone else to run and execute without editing. Yeah, as long as, like I said, the only thing about the bake function is once you bake it in, unless you've saved your template in another file, once you bake it, your template's gone. There's no more editing at all, unless you did, if you were staying, because if you're sending it to someone else to do it, they can't change anything. They can't edit anything. It's done. It's there. It's baked in. And how often, I imagine that there are some out there who does have other folks doing their engraving for them. They're designing another somebody else, but that's not going to be the majority. Majority of us it's me and my laser. Like I said, I'm sure that somebody is going to see value in bake. I just haven't found it. All right. So now let's go over here and I'm going to look here, go back. So we did first name, last name. Oh, and Chris brought up something in, I don't know if Chris emailed me. There is an issue with when you're doing gifts or items. Sometimes people want their first name, a middle initial, last name, or just first name and last name. And when you set up your design for bringing in those, if you had a different column for first name and a different column for middle initial and a different column for last name, if you put in the format, put that on there in Lightburn, and you had %0 for first, %1 for middle initial, %2 for last name. If there wasn't a middle initial, it's going to put a double space between the first and last name, and it's not going to look right. That's why what I did, and he said he had a workaround, and he showed me some of the stuff he was doing. But what I would do is, if I was relying on others to provide me the information, like I did on the spreadsheet I had you fill out, column up here was labeled first name, parentheses, optional middle initial. And then in the next column was last name. So then that's all I got to do is put in column 0, column 1. And if you put in the middle initial, it'll populate. If you didn't, it won't. So I did first name, last name, school, and graduation year. All right. So let's go up here. Done. All right. Now go back to Lightburn, first, last school year. All right. So if I'm going to do an ID badge, and I wanted to have first name, last name, then I'm going to come up here and start with first. And I'm going to do that as a separate line of text. And I'll set my font for that. Let's go with the copper plate, and then come over here and get my next line of text. That's going to be last. Come on, fingers. And I'm going to make the last name bigger if my mouse will ever cooperate. That was way too big. First, last, and school. In fact, you know what I need to do? I need to do this. And then school. And if I want to, and I don't know what thing is running, it's killing my memory, because that's got to be what's going on. My mouse is just, it's worked great. Now it's just wanting to hang up. I want this to be on a different font. We'll do brush. And then the year. And I'm going to put it in Arial. So it's going to be pretty simple. So that's the format that I want. I'm going to make sure that they're all centered up. And now I need to, in fact, I'm going to clear out my CSV file, make sure there's nothing in there. Come over here in my first one. That's going to be the first name. And in my CSV file, A is the first name. So that's going to be edited to %. Come on. %0. I need to make it a merge CSV. And if you remember, the first row was the title, and I got that messed up. First row is the titles. So I don't need that. So I need to offset by 1. So I'm going to offset by 1. And that would give me my first name. And then I need to edit this text. And it would be %1 for the last name. School is 3, so 0, 1, 2. That's what's always messed me up. That's why I had to come back and count them. 0, 1, 2. %2. And that should be %3. And I didn't change my formatting. %3. So there, I've got merge CSV. Here, I need to, come on. Merge CSV. Merge CSV. And merge CSV. Oh, and I forgot to do my offset. Offset by 1. Because for every piece of variable text, you got to tell it exactly what it needs to do. Offset by 1. All right. Now that I've got those set up, now I need to let's see here. We're providing it from existing database. I guess I would have created an additional column with contents of the 2 columns appended to each other. And I have never used Excel. I've used Excel this past week more than I've used it in my entire life. I don't use spreadsheets. I know this. If this is newbie, I know this much about spreadsheets and the macros and all the different things you can do with them. I don't know nothing about that. Nada. Zip zilch. So there are a lot of things that you can do to make them better, but this is how I get what I need, because I do stuff very, 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 very basically. And no, it's not a cleaning issue. It's a memory issue. I was asking how to get all names to print around the circumference of the tumbler. Oh, if you're if you had a lot of names, that'd be tough. And I could see how you could make that a very interesting design. You got my gears turning here now. I was asking how to get all names to print around the circumference of the tumbler. I think you would do something like %01, %0, with an array that would go around the circumference of the tumbler. That's an interesting idea. I don't know, Tom. I'll have to think about that one, or experiment and play with that, because I could see where that would be kind of neat if you're going to do it in a full wrap where you had everybody's name and wrapped around it, and you had to cut out for it could be kind of interesting, but I don't know. Jim says not centered. I guess that's before I centered it. That's why I select all fields the do setting. I don't know what that means. I think he covered the same issue. I'm not sure earlier would work the same way. I think, okay. I started learning spreadsheets on, I don't even know what that is. All right, so back over. So I've got the %0, 1, 2, and 3. I got the formatting set up, and I've got my centering done, and everything was done with just a middle justification. Now I need to go back over to that doc file. Now here, if you're not, and I just learned this tonight before going live, and because this was something that was brought up, and I wish I could give credit where credit is due. I can't remember who asked me this earlier. They asked, does it have to be Excel? No, it doesn't have to be Excel. This is Google Docs. And you can go in here. That everybody's done all this, and we're going to say File, Download, and then over here, Download as CSV, comma separated values. So there's all the different formats you could download this as. We want to do it as a CSV file, download, and now I've got that downloaded. It's in my download folder. So now I can come back over to Lightburn, go over to Browse, go to my downloads, open, done. So now that's brought that in. So if this, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller so I can get a few more on the array. Well, actually, you know what? I don't know how wide they need to be because, and that's another thing too. If I come up here now, and if I look at that, come on. The names of the schools are probably going to be the longest thing to have to deal with. Wrong button, that one. But do test. Yeah, so there's right out of the gate. There's a little bit of an issue. So before doing your array, you're going to want to look around and test. And that's probably going to be one of the longer names of schools. So that right there tells me I need to make that smaller. So before I create my array, I'll just come up here and grab just that text, shrink it down a little bit, test, still too much. And now what I'll do, I'll shrink them both down, test, that's better. Now that I've got that where it looks good, group it, and now do your array. And I told you earlier about the reversing it. I'm going to show you what happens when you don't. So now I know that I'm going to be working with a 300 by 300 material. There's my total width. And there, if I change my X spacing and put it down to just 1 millimeter, it's still not quite right. I was 318. So I'm like, okay. And if I made it any narrower, then I'm going to have a problem with those long names fitting on there. So I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to go ahead and give me some spacing and only be able to get 2 columns in there. And then also it's like, okay, well, you don't want to have, it's going to be 300 millimeters. You want to have as little waste as possible, or keep as much of your material as possible for future projects, your skeletons. But now I come down and get up to 300. There's 345, 275. All right. So that's as big as I can make it for a 300 by 300 piece. But if I wasn't doing a reverse direction, if it went up that way, what's going to happen is if I tell it, okay. Oh, and also, turn off Chris's comment. Where are you at, Chris? Where are you still on the screen for? Go away, Chris. All up in my screen. This is something that I should have told you already. And if anybody was watching it earlier and tuned out and they didn't see this, because I told you, I'm going to screw up. Because there's so many steps that you have to think about when you're doing your array. You have to tell it to auto increment there. So down here, auto increment variable text, and have it increase it by 1. Because if you don't, what's going to happen here, if I turn this off, turn it off here and go back to shift by half, not that shift by half, reverse direction. There we go. And say, okay. And now I test it. Come on, mouse, test. See there? I get all the same thing. The information is correct, but it's a whole bunch of the same one. And that's because I did not do the auto increment in the array. So if I undo and looking at that now, I'm going to grab this and ungroup it, grab those two and bring that down just a little bit. Now group it all and do the array. Auto increment variable text by 1. Okay. And test. And now you'll get your increment is moving down that row in the spreadsheet. So that was a huge boo-boo that almost left out. And that would have been like a shameful thing to leave out because it won't work without it. All right, let's see here. Looking for questions before I move on. Okay, no questions. In fact, I'm just going to put a bookmark in here. Done. All right, now the reason that you want to, let's go back to undo and now do my array. Nope, there. And if I don't reverse direction and the array generates and going up, say, okay. Bring it back down to my work table. Now do my test. Look at the order. My name was the first name on the list, but now the test is still going to work, but it might be a little bit confusing when you're trying to figure out where you are in your list of names. Because now this was the original piece, and then the array started, then that was the next one, and then it started populating upwards. So that your names are, if they were alphabetized, it would go A, B, C, D, E, F. So by reversing your order when you're generating that array and having it coming down, it would keep everything a little bit more pleasing to the eye when you're looking at it and proofing things. I say the other way's not wrong. It'll work. It's just it's gonna affect your results. And now before I had 24 names on there, and in the top corner, whenever you brought in the file, it said there was 0 to 23 because 0 was actually 1, 23 would have been the number 24. With the amount of names that you guys entered in there was actually a total of 37, because starting at 0, ending at 36, that's going to tell us how many are actually in there. But we've got 10 names here. I need to set up my auto advance so that whenever the job engraves, it will auto advance to the next number. And it starts at 0. There's a total of 2, 4, 6, 8 pieces here. So I want to advance by and test. That goes down to Dale. Advance by 8. Test. What I do wrong? I did something wrong. Advance. Oh, I didn't hit next. There. So I've run the job. Now I need to hit next in order to advance. And I'm telling it to advance by 8. And then I look at the test, and it should be the next name after. In fact, let's go back. Right now, current starting is 0. So I do test. That'll be my name up on top. There it is. And then if I go back to my spreadsheet, and Dale was number 9. So Dave B should be the next name I see. So tell it advance by 8 and go next and test. There's Dave B. And I hit next. Jeff, next. And that was the end of it. And up here in the top corner, your current position right there, this is telling me this is number 32. If I go back, there's number 24. That's 24th position in the row right there. So you can always, right now, you can't see any information, but it's telling you right here that this, because this was your origin, this is where you started your array. That position is currently 16. So if I went back and I want to see, for whatever reason, you want to see what 16 is, that's Bob. So if I come back over here and test, oh, nope, that didn't go there. Where's Jeff at? 16. There. Oh, because the offset. D. That's why. But that's showing you your current position, but it's not the current position in the spreadsheet because you offset it by 1. So you have to do the math, but you can always just hit test and see. All right, questions, where we're at. Go back. Come on, Mr. Mouse. All right. Oh man. Y'all talking about punch cards. Now y'all telling your age now. I tell you what, I said y'all some old farts. I remember the first computer that I've seen punch cards and all that stuff. And this would have still been this would have been the early 80s. We were on vacation, the whole family on vacation at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and there's a real popular store. I guess it's still there because it's a landmark. The Gay Dolphin, and they had at the Gay Dolphin you could go in and you could just sign your name, and the computer would analyze your name and be able to tell you who the love of your life was going to be. And it would come out and it was a bunch of punch cards and all, and it was funny. But punch cards, y'all telling on yourself. All right, there's my asterisk. There's my fuzzy. Could you use this for engraving pencils? Yes, absolutely. If you have a template, you can do this. Not for here. I did it with table place markers. We're doing ID badges. If you're doing coasters, if you were doing business cards, if you're doing pencils, anything that you had a template for that you know where everything's going to be, you can set that up and set up this variable text where you're going to engrave your pencils. And if it was going to be names, or if you wanted to have a whole list of different sayings that you're putting on the pencils, absolutely you can use it for pencils. Well, thank you, Tom. It is greatly appreciated. Yeah, I seen that one too, Bob. I don't know that one. Punch cards with carbon paper, green striped. I don't. I remember those. If you're talking about those stupid printouts with the green and white paper, that you talking about the green striped. Oh, I remember that. Oh wow! Thank you, Jim. Much greatly appreciated. Yes, happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. All right, thank you. Greatly appreciated. Thank you, Gene. All right, now let's see here. And moving on, bookmark that. All right, now here's a question. Chris, I'm throwing this at you because you've done a lot with arrays and some virtual text, because you've emailed me you've overcome some issues with the middle initial. And in fact, we're going to go look at that and see how I did it and how that works. Is there anything that I didn't discuss that I might should? You going? Hey, I was waiting for you to bring this up, but you didn't do it yet. Is there anything I left out, or anything that you say, hey, you might want to touch on that, or hey, how about that? No, I don't remember paper tape systems. Pop, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow is the birthday. Well, Smart Alex, thank you for being here. Yeah, got to take care of the puppies. They, you puppies, family, work. Well, thank you, Chicago Bob. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Hello, Dimitri. Yeah, you coming in on the tail end of it. We did variable text, how to set up variable text, and all that good fun stuff. John, question: could you save the Lightburn setup you made and use it for, say, another run later? For yes, absolutely, absolutely. If you set up, if you've got, I don't know, if especially like Chris mentioned that he does his experience with the middle initials he ran into. I think he said he does a lot of pens or pencils or engraving pens as that for gifts. So he's probably got a format that's already set up for doing this. So all he has to do is bring in his CSV file and import it into his template. Because especially if you're doing the same pens, the same template on the same laser, by all means you want to save it. Save it. You import it into Lightburn. You import the CSV file in, hit a button, and it's going to work. You ain't got to set nothing up. You've already done all the work. That's the beauty of this kind of stuff. Let's see here. Question mark, question mark, question. All right, Chris says, no, I think you covered the basics. That covers what we're doing. Yep. And there is so much. And like I said, this was just the variable text on using CSV files. There are other ways to use variable text for doing serial numbers, dates, or because in the formatting option up there. And now I am going to touch on this for you that are still here, because I mentioned in the last video, there is a feature or a setting in the CSV file. I'm like, what the heck is that for? And so I got out the manual, started reading it, and I was like, now that's actually kind of cool. That's really kind of cool. Because if you're working with different medias, if you're working with different types of wood, as you know, different power settings are going to have different outcomes with your laser. So if you wanted to do lace markers and you were doing them on maple and you were getting this excellent result and you wanted to be able to remember what that was, and or you maybe you want to change things, you can actually tell the laser to engrave the settings that you're using right now. And you could use this for any job, not just something like this. If you're just doing a one-off piece of artwork and you won't be able to go down at the bottom where it's going to be cut away and you're not in the waste area, engrave what the actual settings were when you did that job, you can do that using this feature here. Let's see here. Before I do that, just go down here. And now I see Carl. Hey, Carl. I think Carl was the one that asked me about, does it have to be Excel? It does not have to be Excel. Thanks for being here, Carl. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it very much. Very much appreciated. Well, I will spend it on her, brother. I will be happy to. I just went and got her dog food. She won't need any for a week, but it will go to her and her. She just helped herself. I've got a 10-pound, was it a 10-pound box? Yeah. 10-pound box of milk bones that sits here open. And she's so good. She free feeds. When she wants one, she'll come get it. Some dogs, they'd sit there and eat the whole box until they got sick. Not her. She'll eat one. That's all she wants, and she'll go lay down. Chris says that I have a variable text set up as part of the jig file. Yep. So when you're setting up your jig, set up the variable text and then save the jig, save everything's all in one file. Come on, there we go. question. Happy birthday. Sorry, I'm going to bed now. Well, happy birthday to me. Thank you. Appreciate it. And good night. Good morning, I should say. I like the fact that they set cut settings for your own test files. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. So now I'm going to bookmark where I'm at and show you this cut settings in the variable text, because this is kind of cool. Now I'm going to switch back over here, and I'm going to go to the internet and go back to the variable text. And as I said, this is the online support for or documentation for Lightburn, and cut settings, cut setting text format. These are all of the expressions, the letters that you can use for the cut settings. And you even can use it it's not just for diode users. You can set up your Q pulse and your frequency and do all this stuff. But for the diode users, the first expression is a capital C. And the capitalization matters here. Capitalization does matter. Capital C followed by a number pulls the settings from the numbered layer, example CO3, for the remainder of this string. So the remainder of the string, S is your speed. And if you use a lowercase s, it's just going to tell you the numeric value. But if you use an uppercase S, it's going to tell you the numeric value plus the units of measurement, millimeters per second. Same thing for P for power. Capital P will give you the percent sign. And if you're using min power and max power, you can use M for minimum power. D is your DPI, L is your LPI, or your lines displays I'm sorry, L is the name of the laser. I'm sorry. I is your interval. D is DPI, and it's always in dots per inch. And the I would be, if you're doing a line, your interval, capital I would give you your interval plus the distance. So if we go back over to Lightburn, and I come down here to the bottom of this, and I go into my text mode, and I give it a capital C for go back. Capital C is for your cut layer. And then I want C, OO, and comma. And then I want my speed and power. And I do want to include my units of measuring units. So I'm going to do the capital S and the capital P. So capital S and capital P. I need to do comma, capital P. And then if I want to do the interval, capital I, comma, capital I, and comma, L, capital L for my laser. Bring that over here and change that to cut setting. So I've highlighted it and go up here to, I'm no longer using normal, drop down, use cut setting. And now when I select this entire thing and go to preview, that's because of my spacing there. So I'm going to say yes, cancel that. I'm going to bring that over. Actually, you know what? This is be another perfect example. Here, that with this where it was at just now, it threw all of that information off the work table. Well, that's where I want it to be starting. So I changed my alignment. Change my alignment to left. And now I can drag that back over here where I want it to be. And now select the whole thing and look at preview. You know what? And just in case, I'm going to make it smaller. Come on. Make my font smaller. And now preview that. What is it doing? I don't know what that error is about. Preview. There we go. I don't know why it was popping up, but it didn't do my layer right. So I got to look at that. I got that in there wrong. But there it will, and if that would actually engrave, that's going to be your output right there. It's going to tell you your speeds, your power, your line interval, and what laser you did it with. Oh, wrong button. Go back, cancel that. And let's try doing just edit. See. Preview. Nope. It works because I've done it. Catch up here real quick. Sharon says, when I graduated college in 73 with an associate's degree in computer science, we only had punch cards. Come on. All right. Questions. Blank field will give field error. I don't know if that was it's not a blank field because it was highlighting just that 1% number 2. And then when I went back and did it again, it didn't have that error. I didn't delete anything. That would be handy on pencil jigs. Yeah, it's definitely a handy tool. All right, let's see here. Test. Nope. I honestly don't know because I've done. Let's go back here. No, go back here. Expression, capital C, followed by a number, pulls the settings for that numbered layer. Example, C03 for the remainder of the string. So that's what I put up there. COO. Let's make sure I didn't see capital C and then a numeric 0, and preview. Yeah, it's not working right now. I'm doing something wrong because it's not Lightburn. It auto advanced. I didn't tell it to auto I do have auto advance turned on, but it won't advance until you run the job. So it shouldn't have auto advanced. Go back, test. And Craig, I'm not sure what your question is. Asking Dimitri about burn. What do you mean? What you talking about, Craig? Dimitri, before you go, Craig had a question, but I'm not sure what his question is. Ask Dimitri about burn. What burn, Craig? He's getting ready to jump off here. He's going to bed. Oh, he meant bake? Maybe? I don't know. Give him another 30 seconds, Dimitri, and see if he populates a clarification. And a couple of people are thinking bake. So, and I don't know if you use variable text, Dimitri, if you're still here, but there's an option in using the variable text that they have labeled as bake, and it will bake that information into the page, and it's no longer editable. It gets rid of the variable text information, and it is permanently baked into that design. And I can't think of a reason that I'd ever want to do that. I didn't see the value in it. And I guess maybe yeah. And that's what Craig says. Yeah. He's just, do you know of a reason or any value in bake? And I don't even know if Dimitri's still here. Oh, no. In fact, his last comment was support is calling. Dimitri's already gone. So we missed out on that. All right. What was I going to do before that? at dun 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 dun. I still don't understand why that C ain't working with the numbers, because I've done it. I did it and it worked. I was like, oh man, that's cool. But it ain't working right now. It's not populating that C and the layer number. And Chris says bake is only useful if you're doing a single page setup. Yeah, and I can see if you were, depending on how many pieces you were getting on a single page, it could still be beneficial, the using the variable output. And if that was the one and only page that you had to do, check it out, look at it, it's what you want, bake it, and it's done. It's there and it's saved. You can save it as that, as a that file, and yeah. And so I think that would be the only time you'd want to bake, is if all you needed was one page. No, John, I'll try the letter O, but no, it's not a letter. It's because it's the number, it's the layers, and the layers across the bottom is double alt, and then O1, O2, O3. So it's not a letter. And bake is very useful when it comes to Toll House cookies. Very, very useful. But yeah, there's a lot of people, not me, I've never have, but there's a lot of people that just soon grab that tube of Toll House cookie dough right out of the refrigerator and just eat it raw. Not me. And I think that would probably be safer, eating the pre-made cookie dough, because it probably doesn't have the raw egg and all that. But I got family members that whenever you making cookies, you had to mix up two batches. One that you're going to put in the oven, and the other one they're going to eat right out of the bowl. And Jack saying, I think he's saying, that's me. That's me. You can assign and words or numbers to the layers. Okay. Yep. You can assign any. Yep. So you can change those. And I've got uppercase. You know what? I said I had uppercase, but because of the font that I'm using, I don't know if that's uppercase. Let's check that. So let's turn that off, come back over here. Let's grab all this. Let's grab all this on text. Oh, I'm trying to highlight it. Let's just select it. I'm on select. There we go. And change it to Arial. This mouse is driving me crazy tonight, Arial. Yeah, those are all caps. Those are all caps. And I tried it with the space, without a space. And let's make sure that that is cut setting. Yep, and preview. Yeah, it's just not working for me tonight. Don't know why. Let's try, you know what? Let's try doing 2. Nope. Even a different layer didn't print out. And oops. Just renamed cut layer and it disappeared. Huh. And I tried the CO2 because there's 2 layers on there, Sharon. I got layer the double alt for the text, and then the O2 for cut. And you would do this for each of the layers so you could see that printed out or engraved on there. But it is not working for me now either way. Mark's saying edit the double alt layer in your cuts and layers window, and then it will show. I did this yesterday or day before with the CO2 and the CO3, and it worked. I don't understand what it isn't doing. All right. This right here is supposed to print out or engrave CO2 for the O2 cut layer 2, speed, power, interval, and the laser. And if I put COO, it should be, I'm telling it which layer that I want to pull this information from. So over here, I've got cut layer C double alt and cut layer C double alt or C alt 2. And if I would put C double alt and a CO2 on here, whatever these values are, that's what these would. S is for speed, P is for power, I is for interval, and L is which laser actually did the work this time. So if I go to the preview, it's only showing me the speed, the power, interval, and the laser. It's not showing me the layer name or the title, and it's supposed to. And I did this. I wouldn't have brought this up if I hadn't done it and it worked successfully. But for the life of me right now, I can't figure out why it's not working. John's asking, do you need a comma after the C? I don't think so, but we'll try it. Text, comma, preview. No, that didn't do it. Brad, thank you for hanging out with us. Have a good evening. Have a good rest of the week. Try and reset it and try again. And yeah, right now, the power, because I didn't mess with my speed and power settings, but right now on my laser and my speed and power over here is showing that layer is at 6,000 speed and 20% power. So that is the correct information to populate over here. Because if I come over here and change this to, come on mouse, if I change that to 500 and 100%, and now populate it or preview it, there's 500 and 100%. So it's going to print, it's going to fill those values in based on what your values are for your layers. Zoom out on preview. A double C. I didn't have to do a double C. And you could actually, yeah, that you could do that. Bill's a smart feller. Yes, that would look good. Instead of doing, if you're going to do this, if you're going to have come over here and get rid of that, come up here to the line above it and do a capital L. Now you'd have to tell it that's come up here and change it to cut setting. And I'm going to actually, oh, I wonder. No, that's all one thing, and that's right. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to start all over. COO, comma, capital S for speed, comma, capital P for power, capital or comma, capital I for interval. And I've got L up there. And now let's put this to cut. And then we'd do capital C, O2, comma, capital S, comma, capital P, comma, capital I. And put that on cut and align all that to the left. Good suggestion, Bill. So that gives you your laser and then your settings, but it's not giving me that cut. I don't know why. Yeah, the comma shows up because I wanted to, have a break in there. There's my 6,000 millimeters a minute, comma, 20% millimeters. If you don't put a comma in there, it'll just, I don't know if it'll give her space. Yeah, I think it'll be just a space. I think. I don't know. I didn't have to do it twice before. It was just once. I don't know why it's not working. John says maybe have to change it in your cut on the main screen because it did change when you changed it in the drop down. Not following. It works. It works first time, but not second time. May actually be a bug. I don't know. Yeah, Craig, we already passed that. So I think you're baked a couple ways tonight. Yeah, I don't know. And I did not update. I see there's an update available on this PC that I have not updated yet, but using this software yesterday, I did exactly what I'm trying to do now, and it worked. I've already tossed it, I'm sure, but it worked. But regardless, that's pretty cool to be able to get that. All right. Any more questions? We're 2 hours in. Any questions? Any questions? Any comments from the peanut gallery? Any comments, questions? Why does it start with a comma? It started with a comma because what I've actually inputted there was the C double alt, comma, speed, comma, power, comma, interval, comma. So it's not even acknowledging that C double alt at all. The first thing it sees is the comma. And it prints that. It's just not acknowledging that C double alt. So if I was to go back over here and go back to preview so you can see, everybody can see it starts there with that comma. But if I go, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. I just come down here to my text and get rid of that comma and the C double alt and preview. I didn't do that. I didn't mean to do that. I might do that. I need the selector tool, dummy. Preview. And so now the comma's gone. Jack, are you? Yeah, I know you're being funny. Why are they still shooting fireworks? You live in the same county. You know why they're still shooting fireworks. Try the C double alt in another spot. Let's try that. And then another suggestion is try entering just the C double alt. Try it with a space. We can try it with a space. We'll try all those. In fact, let's try the capital C space do o comma, and then we'll come down to this one and try capital. No, come on, capital. Let's see, what was it? Z. All right, let's try that, and let's go back. We'll come down here. C, capital C, O. Tell that to go to cut, setting, preview. All right, there's the double alt, and there's the double alt. Okay. But all right, well, let's come down here then and go to text, capital C space O2 space or comma. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Pop Up says that's why I think it's CO2, or I don't follow that. I think it's CO2, comma CO2, or I don't see the difference in what you're doing, Pop. Put a comma in front of the C. Yeah, that I'll do that, but that shouldn't be the issue because the comma's not needed. The comma I did is just as a separator for the text. If I come over here, put a comma in front of it, and preview, just going to print the comma. The commas are not needed. That's just something I did for visual presentation. If I come in here and just delete the commas altogether, didn't want to do that, undo that, delete the commas, and just put a space in between each of the options I'm looking for. It's going to do that. There's no comma. I just did that because for me, when I'm looking at it and reading it, having that comma in there just made it simpler. It just breaks up those the descriptions. C followed by a number pulls the settings of the cut layer. Yeah, that's what's in the manual. That's you. I guess you copied and pasted it. C followed by a number, and the first number or the first layer is the cut layer is the double alt layer, and it's not working. In doc it says in doc it does not say it will display. It did display. It displayed for me the other day. But I don't know. At least I thought it did. You know what? I might be chasing my tail because And Valerie says, isn't that what you're trying for? And if we go back over here and look, that did give the result, but it doesn't have the C, but that works. Does that give me the right information though? No, it didn't. Oh, you know what? I think Chris might be onto something. I think Chris might be nailing it. 0002. Somebody else said this a minute ago too, about entering it twice. And I believe was the trick if you want it to print. I was thinking that it printed out last time I tried this yesterday. Maybe it didn't print it out because I might have only been worried about the engraved layer, the one layer. But if you had multiple layers, you would want to know, you'd want to have that engraving identified as to which layer it is. And here, that's showing you double alt layer, the O2 layer, and that's the correct speed and power for each of those layers that are in Lightburn right here. So that brought in the right information. But in order to get that to do that, you first had to tell it, I want it from the C double alt layer. And that command right there is not going to print. And that's what Chris pointed out, is it doesn't say, Chris says, it doesn't say it'll display. And it doesn't display. All that's doing is it's telling it, it's commanding it that I want this information. So if you want to identify it, someone else suggested that you'd put it in there twice, and whoever that was, they get the cookie. They get the gold star for tonight. So you need to put it in there. And if you wanted it to say CO2, which I wouldn't want it to see, here it's just telling it to go to this cut layer. That's the one I want the information pulled for. And then what I want engraved and showing is this cut layer is identified here, and there's a speed, power, and info report. So you would need to do it twice to get that pulled up. Man, we can make a great team. Yeah, I've tried to talk to Jason a couple of times about different things. I even suggested that I needed to be put on the payroll because 90% of the stuff I do is not project related, but Lightburn related, and I'm not on the payroll. And he said, yeah, well, we might entertain something like that, or maybe per pay per video or something, but that fell flat. You can type the cut layer, but it will only something. Hey, Steve, glad you made it. Yeah, we're actually wrapping it up. We've been troubleshooting. There's, and you may be aware of this, Steve, but this is in the variable text. It will allow you to engrave using the cut settings in variable text. And this is, let me go back here. We've been playing with variable text, and I showed them. We created a CSV file earlier tonight. Everybody chimed in and made their own. So this is an example of how this was going to work by bringing in a CSV file. Everybody's different school and year they graduated. But down here at the bottom, I don't know if you've seen that or not. You're able to tell it to print out what laser. This will actually engrave on your material. Laser that did job, the cut layers, the speeds, the powers for each layer. I said, man, that's kind of cool. If you were doing different, there we go. Now you're seeing it. There's each individual name tag, and then there's the identification information for each of the cut layers for the job that just did. And if you were doing different materials and you're like, oh, I like that result, I like that speed this would, just be an easy way to save it for that job. Pop Pop's the one that said do it twice. Gold star for Pop Pop. Yeah, Jack, I got there. Y'all quit fussing at me. I had to do it at least once per stream. You know that, right? All right. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Appreciate all that you've done. Appreciate your support. I did not make any projects this week because I've been working on this. And the variable text came up as a request from one of my patrons. One of the patrons needed to have the ability to do variable text on tumblers and needed some help on how to do that. So I actually did that first video real quick on just how to quickly set up that. You've got one logo and now be able to bring in a CSV file with all those names and be able to run the job quickly. And then that morphed into this, to a more in-depth use of CSV files. And it was a better opportunity for me to get a better understanding on how it all worked, and then now share it with you. It's a great topic for live stream. And along those lines, because this, and I will take requests from my patrons first, because without my patrons, I couldn't continue to do this. But if there's something specific that you need a better grasp of how to do something in Lightburn, email me, hobowithwood@gmail.com. And in fact, banners. Do I have that? Don't have just that, but this will work. It has it on there. There's hobowithwood@gmail.com. If you have a specific question or a topic that you would like to dive into and get a better understanding of, you're probably not the only one. And coming up with new topics, it can be challenging sometimes. And I embrace a challenge. And like here, this stupid, that double alt, we kept digging, kept fighting, and finally figured it out. I won't shy away from a challenge. I'll try and help you figure it out, me figure it out, and make us all better Lightburn users and engravers. So if you have a topic, send it over. And if there's a different software other than Lightburn that you would like to explore, simply because I don't want to be just a one-trick pony. And if there's something else that is a very popular thing that people are doing that can't be done in Lightburn, we'll look at that too. But that's the email that's going across there, hobowithwood@gmail.com. The website, of course, is hobowithwood.com. I didn't do any new files this week. If you want to become a patron, it would be greatly appreciated. The patrons are what keep this channel going. Patreon.com/hobowithwood. And if you're looking to buy your Rolly, there's the affiliate link that would help support this channel, hobowithwood.com/Rolly. And of course, like, subscribe, share, all those good things. Let's see here. Well, hello, Miss Speed Demon. I'm glad you made it. You got here in time for the goodbyes. One you'll want to rewatch. This was the first time I've done an interactive. We actually created a spreadsheet at the beginning. People were able to log into Google Docs, put in all their information. Then I downloaded that Google Doc and imported that into Lightburn and used that information to create the CSV files and all of the name tags. Okay. Yep. Lots of birthday wishes. Let's get this off here. Craig says, "Hey, Stacy," just in case you missed it. And Chicago says, thanks for another great stream. Thank you for being here, Chicago Bob. You are, I can depend on you. I got all these other people right now who are off traveling around, going on vacation and partying, but you're here. I appreciate it. And yes, go gold is, if you're going to become a patron, it's definitely worth the money to go gold. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Stacy. And yeah, you definitely want to catch this replay. All right, we're going to get out of here. The fireworks have ceased and desist, and she is now calmed down. She's sitting over there being all good girl. That's her name, by the way. Gigi is her initials. Her name is Good Girl. All right, we're out of here. I hope you guys have an enjoyable rest of your weekend. If you have any questions and or suggestions about anything you would like to see in live streams, let me know. I'm going to work on, someone asked about the renovations on the bathroom. I mentioned in the video, one of the videos, kind of a little bit of a brain fart here. I mentioned that I couldn't find where this one 4x4 went. It looked like it went from the floor all the way to the rafters. Turns out it wasn't a rafter. It was actually the top plate for the wall. The walls in here are in excess of 10 feet tall, and I had not removed enough of the paneling to see that it was extending all the way up there. Went to Lowe's today and bought a whole lot more tools so I can get the necessary demolition done that I've been dragging my feet on. I'll be sharing more of that. I share more about what's going on with that with my patrons. But that's going to be, once I start actually getting more and more, I'll put some video progress videos up in the weekly stuff. That is doable. I've talked about, doing something maybe monthly with all of the locals, you, me, Ed, and there's a bunch of locals. There's a bunch of rednecks. There's a bunch of Gaston County rednecks in the stream. Maybe once a month or every so often get together. But you not get in touch with me. I don't go nowhere right now. All I'm doing is demolition and YouTube. So I'm here. Guys, you have a good night. Have a good weekend. And I will see you in the videos next week. And we'll see you in the next week's live stream. Good night, everybody. And we'll see you later.